Yay, we're live. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. So I am in Sharon'S Pottery.
Hello. Just get some drinks so we can talk.
Yay, so we went live a few days ago and everyone was like, yes, please, we want to see inside of Sharon's studio. So we are here. I would love to know how you're finding the Wi-Fi. If you could let us know if you can see us and hear us, and if it crackles, please let us know.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed we'll be okay. So this is a bit of a test as well to see if the Wi-Fi can hold out here.
Yay, hello Lucy. Hello.
So if you are tuning in for the first time, we are in the middle of a Kickstart Your Art challenge. In fact, we are coming towards the end. It's absolutely flown by. And I just wanted to say, if you are feeling behind, or you're feeling that you haven't caught up, or you haven't been keeping up with the lives in each day, and you feel that you're a bit disconnected from it, whatever you're feeling, there's lots of people feeling the same, and we've recognized that. So next Wednesday, before everything comes down, we will do a boot camp style Kickstart, where in 1 hour we will give 10 timed limits and talk through the challenge, and you'll bring your sketchbook to that session and we're going to power through the Kickstart in an hour.
Because it can be done. It can be done.
It can be.
And we've spread it over 10 days because it's like a little nice introduction to a bite-sized little nice activity that you can just do in 10 minutes or longer if you want to. But actually you can do all of this in about an hour if you really time it, and it's all about that kickstart, that boost. And I think we're on the 27th tomorrow, so it's the start of a new moon, new season, new cycle. So everything's starting to grow.
The sun's shining here in the UK. We've just come out of snow literally a week ago to amazing sunshine, and it like makes you feel really, really good, doesn't it? When
it's always cold in the pottery though, for some reason. I think it's really big, thick brick, old, damp building. So I've always got.
It's cold here. Yeah, I might put my coat on in a minute.
5 heaters later. It's fine. We're kickers. We need this just as much as you guys do.
Yeah,
we do. In the same boat.
In fact, every time we go through this, and we go through Make Your Mark, and we go through Kickstart, we get so much out of it ourselves, don't we? And it reminds us of things that we forget every time we do it. And there was an important comment that came in today, actually. I've not had a chance to speak to you about it, but it was really interesting how somebody said, there was a few comments actually. One person said, I didn't really feel inspired by this, but I did it anyway. And as simplistic as that sounds, it's like, it's such a great step forwards to be not in the mood to do it, but doing it anyway. And pushing through that resistance. I was feeling this recently. And what she ended up doing though, and she said, and I don't really like what I've done. And in fact, when we're going to do another live on Sunday, because it's the last day on Sunday, so we thought if we go do a live and just go reflect over what we've done, I want to share this piece of work, because actually she said, I don't really like it. I wasn't in the mood and I didn't like it. But when I looked at it, there was so much to read from this image. That gives me chills. And that's why I want to bring it in on Sunday to talk about it, because this person is looking at that going, I wasn't feeling it. I didn't enjoy it. I don't like it. But I looked at it today and I was like, look how you've tackled that. Like this and this or that was the challenge yesterday, and everybody looked at that challenge in a different way, and that's what makes this so amazing. And this person, and I want to ask permission before I use their name and talk about the work, had totally taken on a different angle to anyone else, and this is what Kickstart is all about. Anything that day, but she did it that way, with a path and warm to cool. And that says a lot about ourselves when we are picking it up anyway and doing something. That is your voice. That's your voice coming out. There's a reason why she did it in that way. And it's really, really interesting. And so I went back and said, but do you see all the information in this, like how you've approached it? That says so much. And
it
it's
really
like,
does.
oh yeah.
It's,
so it's
I'd like, yeah, that's a really good point. There's I was listening to the Lowy Craft Prize today with the Collector Crafts Council in the UK at the moment. They've just launched their there's lots of things going on, really happening right now. I'm really excited and fired up about it. And one of the questions was from the panel was how are you in your work? Where are you, or are you in your work? So when someone approaches this or that, it's our choice. It's our personal person, if you like. It's our character, our spirit, our body, or our mind. How are we in our work? Where are we in it? And that example of this or that, I don't want to do this, sort of like that resistance to doing something, to be told that is, and then doing it.
It tells you so much.
That takes so much. First of all, it takes so much courage.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And to actually then work forward, because you know that on some base level it's going to really help you in some way, but you're not sure yet. So you're not preempting the idea that it's going to be something at the end.
Yeah.
You're allowing yourself. So this person has allowed themselves to go on that journey without knowing what is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's really very, very, very good. Very insightful. That's a very good process. I didn't do this or that yesterday. I was too busy. I was too busy doing stuff, which is great. But that's what I do anyway. I always choose this or that. I always ask myself, why? Why am I doing? Why am I choosing this colour? Why am I choosing that tone? Why am I choosing this texture? Is it going? So it's kind of a selection, rejection, question, answer process, but in a real, constant, deep level in my work. That's great. Well done, whoever you are.
I know.
Let's find out who you are. It's like the mystery artist.
Yeah, Chantal saying, not being in the mood, but doing it anyway. Lots of clues are coming out for me, and I'm beginning to understand the process. Yes, it's so exciting when you start to understand it. This or that unlocked an old door. Oh, I like that.
I like the visuals of unlocking a door. There's like spring to mind, doorways, openings, new growth. All of those lovely things. Oh, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah. Tina's asking, will you do another 10-day challenge? Maybe in the future, but not right now, because Sharon will go off to do Make Your Mark and work with Make Your Mark students. I run the members hub and we'll be over there. So we won't be doing anything immediately. But yes, in the future, I'm sure.
You can do it now. If you write them down, you can do it in your own time with your sketchbook, with whatever material that you choose to have or work with. You can do it in your own time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's it's always really nice to work with somebody else, because we bounce ideas off each other, and we are more than one person in this lovely big world. So
I love this. Hannah said I crammed days 4, 5 and 6 into the studio session this morning and loved it. It's such an amazing challenge. Thank you. And that's why, for those who were just tuning in, there's going to be a boot camp next Wednesday to get you through the challenge. So no messing. We're going to set the timer 10 minutes and we're going to work through this with you.
Hannah, I've got a question. How long did it take you to do that? I'm quite curious. Did it take you 10 minutes, or was it?
It was a studio session this morning.
So we
did 2 hours. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's the beauty of a Kickstart challenge, and a Kickstart, any kind of new something that is giving you fresh life or fresh growth or a fresh start to something that is new that you haven't found out about yet. That is so exciting. So anything like this is going to really help.
Oh, they can all hear us loud and clear. That's good, because we're at the pottery and we're always a bit nervous, aren't we? Theresa was saying, I was trying to explain to my lady this morning, I'm a carer, how I struggle with mindfulness. Couldn't explain what I was trying to say, but explained what I'd been doing with the Kickstart, and she got me. Oh, that's amazing. I still struggle with mindfulness, but I now enjoy a good brain dump. Oh yes, if you take one thing from this process, it's learning how to do a brain dump.
Let's talk about that. Can we just talk about that little thing? First of all, Teresa, well done. It's amazing that you sharing your work with other people and sharing the process with other people, especially for mindfulness. We all really need this right now. We really need time for ourselves and be mindful of what is going on in our world, especially right now. It's so important for us to give time to ourselves and to share it, and a real connection with other people as well, which is why we do things together.
This morning I had a studio session with my members, and we literally just cut strips of paper up and put them on pieces of just collaging, and it's just so relaxing.
It's just that, you know, the activity of that doing, that playing, that but yeah, good. But let's talk about a brain dump. A brain dump, we joke about it, but actually it's really important. It's so good for us to actually take all of the things that are in our minds and in our bodies, in our heads, in our thoughts, and park them for a bit. So it clears some space in our minds for other things to come in. And that is really great process. And we say brain dump because it's funny. And we like joy and laughter in our lives. It's fun. It's supposed to be funny.
I've just realised I said there's no more. To just clarify, I've just realised I might be confusing people when I said there's no more art challenges, because I have just set up a second group, but it is for our members only at this stage. But I've set up a second group called the UAS Makers, United Art Space Makers. And that group is about art challenge each month, like we're doing. So if you're a member, that will be happening, but that's not available to everybody just yet. We are testing that out, and we've created a pilot behind the scenes, and if that works, then it will be released to the public from April. So so
that's really exciting,
because we see the need for there is Chantel, I think I've read that one. Yes, I've read that one, Chantel. Jane says, I'm on day 5, looking back into my ceramics. Where did I leave off? Interesting. Someone said above, where's your pottery? It's in Shropshire. We're in Shropshire.
In Telford. Sunny Telford in Shropshire.
Lucy says, this or that has made me see how much I have changed and how much I love that change. What brilliant insight.
It's kind of acknowledging where you're from as well, isn't it? The this or that challenge is acknowledging who you are, where you're coming from, what your story is, and why you're choosing something. So what your choices are. So it could be this or it could be that. And then obviously in the Make Your Mark, we talk a lot about the selection and rejection processes. And we really do use that same or that similar choice kind of system in this process that we are in as artists.
Sam says, I need to catch up on the past 2 days, but I'm loving the challenge. It's forcing me to it's forcing me to not think of work at the time and embrace my creativity. Amazing. That's the purpose. That's so good, Sam. Cara's done day 7.5 of 8 today. Just going to finish off this afternoon. Wonderful. Loving doing the challenge yesterday. Can't believe I'm enjoying this so much. My son had COVID. Oh no. So in isolation, this is great for me. Oh, Joan, I'm so happy. I'd love to know from everyone as well taking part, how many of you are doing the 10-minute version or had intentions of doing the 10-minute version and it's turning into more, or I'd love to just understand how you're all working. Is it the 10 minutes you're doing, or is it you're doing an hour? It would be really interesting to see how you're all doing it. Sharon, I love your cup.
This cup is by Steve Booton. Steve Booton. He's in the UK. He's an amazing artist. He's an amazing ceramicist. Follow him, Steve Booton. Call him Booton. He's from North.
I love this from Susie. She says, I'm behind, but I'm loving these challenges and these live programs. These challenges are not all how I approach my art, which takes me so out of my comfort zone. It's so strange how they then it goes off. I can't see the rest of the comment because we're on a phone. Can members watch these again going forwards? Yes, everything goes into the hub. Yes, Michelle. But so this Kickstart is the prep work for Sharon's Make Your Mark course, basically. So from the 5th, everything gets taken down and it's all moved inside for Make Your Art, and members get access to the Kickstart inside of the hub platform. And
it's kind of a little snippet of the process that I use.
It is, yes,
all the time, what all artists use all the time, no matter what specialist area you're in. So if you're into painting, photography, ceramics, clay, sculpture, and everything, textiles, illustration, everything, this is a process that I teach and I use all the time. So it's a little snippet, this Kickstart challenge, and we thought it'd be quite nice to share it and to give you a little taster of what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, so actually let's do that now. Let's talk about your process, because Sharon is an amazing artist. And you've been an artist for like 25 years now. practicing artist.
I know.
And
I've got to say, the picture on your website is so like, it makes me look like I'm about 16, but actually not. I'm 46. So 46. So I started teaching when I was 24. So I've had a long time I'm a qualified lecturer of art, had loads of students in my lifetime as a teacher, but always worked alongside, so always taught part-time in college and uni level courses, and then always produced my own work, but always played at it, so it was always a really nice balance. And I always think that if I'm going to teach something, I've really got to know about it. So I've taught painting, photography, sculpture, textiles, ceramics. I'm not solely ceramics, but that's what my chosen specialist area is now, and that's been happening since 2014. But I've got my master's in it and all sorts. I've got so many qualifications. I kind of get bedded down in them. No, babe, but that doesn't matter. I'm going off on one. This is I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't. I just wanted to give you a bit of an insight in where my background is. So I use this process. It's really great. It's a really great process. It's a cycle. We start at a beginning. We then play with it, select, reject, all of those lovely little Kickstarty things, and then we form a kind of conclusion to a point, and then it just keeps going around and around and around. So the Kickstart is you've had 10 days of now go and look for something. Nearly 10 days, sorry. Go and look for something, go and find something, choose something, have a look at colour, look at some texture or some shape or some form, or all those formal elements that we love in art, which brings our conversation, really rich, deep conversation in our art, no matter what we use. So painting, sculpture, textiles. And this is how I do it. So I've got endless amounts of sketchbooks. And I know there's a question the other day where, how many sketchbooks do you need to have? And I have lots of them because I use them all the time. It's a way for me to get all of my ideas and my thoughts down, a brain dump, so that then I can take little elements. Not everything is going to become a final outcome. I just take little bits that spark to me, and then I pull them apart, and then I dissect them and look at them, and then I bring them into my 3D work once I've decided that I'd like to have a final outcome for a fresh body of work, fresh ideas. I do this all the time. Sometimes I have like 6 weeks of a new project that I really work fast in, and sometimes it's a 5-year-long project that is actually got lots of parts in between, so that it's a process that I use, and it's not like a timeline. There's no linear way. It's definitely a circular way. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
So should we have a note? I'm going to move the phone now so we can have a nosy in Sharon's.
Yeah. I kind of tidied up. It doesn't look very tidy, but I have. This is just a selection of my work. Shall I hold it so then I can show you around? There we go. Yeah. So I want to show you that this is the entrance to my part of the workshop. If you go through that entrance there, I've got like a welding studio space and a kitchen area. I don't know if the Wi-Fi will work. Let's do it. Let's give you a little tour. I love this. This is my safe place. So this is my welding area where I'm working on a piece here, which is that longer cycle, and I've got a sketchbook for that one. Can you still see me? And then around here I share my workshop with I sublet it to other people. So I've got this is some tables down here and a little kitchen area down there, some wheels, and some tidying up needs to be done on that bit. And then through here is where you can see us. I've got my sketchbooks down there. And then through here I've got my kiln room, which is what I've got a couple of kilns in here and a little test room and some glazes on the workbench. So it looks quite big, but actually isn't. It is. It's big enough for us or for me to play, and it's a really safe place to be. But it wasn't always this way. I started out on a kitchen table. So let's talk about some. Let's show some sketchbooks. Shall I show you this newest one? What do you think?
Can we to hold?
Yeah, okay. Are you going to can you turn it round?
Yep.
Okay,
Like that.
I
can't flip the screen.
Okay. We've got a little safe space here. Maybe not safe. Put that there. Health and safety. Water next to plug sockets doesn't quite work, does it? So this is the cycle that I've been working on. And I have my mind maps. So I've got my mind maps here, and then that's led me to some images. I've taken some, I've gone on a little bit of a journey for some of my own images, so primary, secondary. I'm looking at swimming, and I go in much more depth in the Make Your Mark course. So this is just like an idea, and then I'm looking at textures. I'm looking for particular textures and colours linked to the swimmers. I'm playing on old photographs and doodling. I'm looking at colours and repetition, and line, shape, form, texture, tone, weight, and then composition, and then colour. Colour was really insightful. That was a big one for me this year so far, because actually it made me think of incorporating pink into my work. So this is an image of the. I think you can see that. Yeah. So this is an image of a swimmer. But I really, once playing around with colours and giving myself time to play with colours, I really noticed that I was drawn to pink, which was very, very interesting.
I'm going to move around this way.
So this is. So I'm collaging, I'm playing with materials, and I'm looking at the shapes and pink, and how can I bring that into a figure? Because the figure is what I use as a vehicle to express my ideas, my emotions, my feelings, and what it is that I want to communicate through my work. And then lots of selection and rejection here, and this isn't finished, by the way. So now I'm working for thoughts for a bigger piece. So this is just one process. I mean, it's not finished. I will work in. I've left some blank spaces in there so I can then put some of these kind of loose sheets in here. Which are these kind of little loose sheets that I spent a few minutes on doing. So those will go in there just to keep them in.
Yeah.
Just really quick sketches using tone and line, shape and line.
Lottie's asking if you know somebody called Nancy Sutcliffe. She's a glass engraver, and she has done some swimming figures that immediately came to mind when you showed that. Great, we'll write that down in Sharon's sketchbook. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That's definitely, it's a sponge process. It keeps my work really exciting. It keeps me excited about my work, and it keeps my work fresh. So I don't want to be the artist that has one particular thing that I replicate again and again and again, year in, year out, year in, year out. I don't want to do that. That's not my choice of how I want to work. I would like to keep my work moving and keep it fresh with ideas that are relevant now in this modern time. I want to reflect all of those thoughts, those things that we're in right now. And that's why I always always feel the need to pull out things.
I love this question, and it was one that I was just thinking of actually when you're going through that process of showing us the sketchbooks. It can seem like a lot of planning and a lot of thinking. Susie's asking here, does all good art have to be planned, or can it be spontaneous?
No.
And I think this is a great question, because it's like it'd be interesting to know how intuitively you work as planned, because I think there's lots of people that plan. There's lots of people that just work intuitively, that don't plan, but there'll become a point where they do reflect though on what they've made, and that's the difference, isn't it? It's how much is planned and how much is intuitive when you go into the process of like something like
for instance, these ones down here, these little figures here. I'm not sure.
I'll bring them up.
Here's a swimmer. So there's a swimmer in 3D. I can't plan that because I don't know what a leg looks like. So when I start playing with clay, it's great. I have a conversation with the clay and the clay talks back to me, and I love it in that moment. But then at some point I get stuck, and then I think, I need to go back and I need to do a spot of research or some drawing, some observational drawing, so that then I can understand how I want that figure to swim or to fly or to be suspended somehow. And I can't do that if I'm always being spontaneous, which is fine. You know, if you're that artist that always wants to be spontaneous, at some point it's quite nice to know why you're doing something. So when I work, it's very fast. If I sit, this is a good thing. If I sit down here, which is in my workshop, and I'm doing this, my work becomes very, very slow and very considered and very carved and very quiet. And most of the time I've got music on, and I am this kind of active person, and I'm on here. So I work at this height, and when I put my glazes and my finishings onto this piece, or when I work with the clay, I want it to be active, and I don't know that until I think about it. So I think I've got to think about it a lot. So I guess it's mostly 50-50. So 50% planning, 50% playing and exploring and allowing that freedom of expression and that conversation in yourself to come out somehow. I think it's very dependable. You know, it's very dependent on what kind of things that you want to make and explore in your work. If you're an illustrator and you want something very, very specific for a book, for instance, you might have to plan the storyline out and the pages. You know, what's going to go in those images, for instance. But if you are a fine artist or an abstract painter or abstract artist, and you want the material that you're using to have just as much say as you have, you say, so it's a two-way conversation, then you might need to free up a lot more, and just to go, wow, I'm going to see where this is going. I definitely think play is so important, though, and allowing yourself that freedom. I hope that makes sense, and I don't want to waffle on too much. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Should we have a look at some of these pieces and see how talk us through like how they came to a final piece?
Let's go back a little bit to this point. So,
and this is what Sharon teaches in Make Your Mark, by the way. So we will talk about that at the end, but this is the process that Sharon shares in the course.
Just looking through shapes and analysing shapes. So my shapes from last year, generally my shapes are very weighty. They are weighty because they're clay. And I want to know how I can get that weight to be lifted. So I've got to look at shape and I've got to look at weight, so which is a formal element. And the circle really started to come in to my sketchbook and my sketches and my playings, these are my playtime pieces. And they're not finished pieces, they're for me to look at and refer to. So this circle was really coming into my mind somehow. I'm like, oh, where's this going to? How am I going to get that? So I'll start that with that circle. So then I've got some clay and I went on the wheel. So let's go over here.
Sorry, my camera skills are not great. You're probably all a bit seasick.
I'm really excited.
I've just got my phone.
And then what I do is I take those same or similar feelings into a three-dimensional weighty objects, because I'm a 3D artist, I'm a tactile artist. And then I find some pinks. Hold on, let's see if I can do that. Oh, there we go. Can you see the pinks now in there a little bit? Reflection of the light a bit. And the greens. So I am now influenced from my drawings and taking elements of those drawings.
Playtime,
and so I'm still in playtime. I go on the wheel and I play with clay, and I just play. And so I've made 30 pots. I'm not a potter. I don't know where they're going yet. And then I make some figures as well, play with these figures. And then this then started making me think, well, how am I going to incorporate that circle onto a figure? So this is a playtime piece as well. Can you see that? So it's got some, I'm drawing onto the surfaces and sketching it as I go and asking myself questions along the way. So gives me kind of a timeline of what it is that I want to do, so I can go back to it. These ones here are not finished. They are explorations in for bigger pieces. I want to go big, and I want to use some metals, and I'm looking at the space and how to get that weight from the clay for it to be lifted and less weighty. So these actually are going to be suspended somehow. You know, they don't have, you know, so the falling or the, I don't know where it's going. I'm in this journey of playing and experimentation and exploring, but I'm also referring back to the parts that I really liked in here. So at the moment, this is where I'm at the moment, playing around with figures in clay. It's a different material. It's not as instant as a three-dimensional object because it's weighty and it collapses and it gets dry. It's a process, so you have to go in the kiln and then bring it out and glaze it, then goes back in the kiln again and bring it out, and then you have to weld some things onto it or do something else with it. So it's a process as well. But that brings me back to that cycle. It's all a cycle.
And it's learning as well about... I'm just reading Susie here saying it makes complete sense. I'm very spontaneous and I don't plan, and I think that's why I'm finding that I'm out of my comfort zone with the challenges, but it's great to push myself. And I think when you do work intuitively and you know, in that moment, and you're not planning, you're not thinking about it, what this challenge does is it makes you aware of art as a language, and it starts getting you to think about when you're putting colours next to each other, how does that colour change? And if you want to make something big, you know, I put it next to something small and it emphasises that, and it just starts to get you to really read art. And that's why I love this course, because you can be spontaneous, but having that ability to look at your art afterwards and read it and understand more about it, I think really does push your art forwards, and you can still keep that spontaneity and intuitiveness. It's
the difference between I don't like brown, but I've always used brown clay. So there's, in my mind, I've always thought, oh man, there's something about this brown, what's not fitting right? So then I go back and I analyse the colour. So I look at colour, and then that helps me to refresh the palette that I'm using. So it not only makes me think about the colours that I'm using, the shapes that I'm using, the weight that I'm using, the playfulness or the approach, the methods. It's all of that are formal elements which describe a piece of art, and it helps us to communicate that language which is visual. It's the visual elements, it's visual language. It's not written, or a piece of music that we hear. There's another question, wasn't there, about music?
Yeah, there was a great question, because one of the challenges was to listen. It was like day 2, stop, look, listen, and really pay attention to what you're hearing, seeing. And I don't know about you, but I've started to notice some crazy things since I've started to do the challenge. But one of the questions was, you know, on that day when you start to notice the sounds, and someone said, I noticed the sound of birds and I noticed all these really calming sounds, but I don't know how to put that into my artwork. And it was a great question. And this is the kind of thing you teach and make your mark, isn't it? It's how you bring this through into your work, which is what Sharon is so amazing at, bringing feelings and thoughts and experiences into your work.
My stance on that part, so initially it was raining. I took my child to the park and we sat and we stood outside and we stopped, looked, listened. And one of the bits that I did was noticed where the rain was hitting on my body and what I could hear. So the rain was coming onto my hood on my coat, and that was like a sound that went. It was really beautiful. It made me feel good and relaxed, and it was calming noise. And it tasted cold and wet, and I noticed that the wind was pushing it on one side of my face. So if I was an abstract artist, I would want to get that feeling in my work somehow. And I wouldn't sit down, like I said before, I wouldn't sit down and draw that feeling. I would be here and I'd be drawing it, and I'd be drawing it like this. and I'll be drawing it with my body. Maybe I'll be drawing it with my face. You know, that there's so many different ways that you could experiment with that feeling in art. I think I've just rubbed some stuff on my face. I don't know.
No, you're right.
Some clay. Just put some clay. Get in there.
We're always dirty, aren't we?
Yeah. So that was my experience, and I noticed there was a lot of colour on the park, which I wouldn't have usually noticed. I noticed the weather, and how it made me feel. And if I was to get that element or that feeling into my work, I would, and I have done this. I've done it in the Sharon's Diary and the Make Your Mark course. The way I approach the glaze or the clay, I get myself into that mindset, and then I dance with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I just put the points on there. So those are the marks. There's the language that we use. We wouldn't use big, heavy, angry lines to explore that.
Yeah. Chantel says here, can you smell as well? Yeah, it should be stop, look, listen, smell, maybe, because it is important. Smells, when we went to Attingham, you know, the smells at Attingham, especially around winter. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Every smells, all the senses come alive, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, it's endless. I love this art. This art that we are in and sharing is so magic.
Sarah says, I love playing and experimenting, gathering visual research for colour, texture, shape, form. That's what Make Your Mark is, making models, maquettes, sketches, etc. I keep on gathering. I love it all, and I end up feeling overwhelmed. This is, like a kid in a sweet shop as to which direction to take, as there are so many choices on offer. What's your advice? So this is what Sharon teaches in Make Your Mark. There's a whole section called Select and Reject, and that's what Sharon is amazing at, and she's taught me this in my own art, is to and in my life, this term select and reject that Sharon has taught me has influenced everything in my whole life, but let's just keep it on art. So now I'm the same. I've got like a big project and I go through Make Your Mark. Sharon's just taught me how to select the most important things, because you can't do everything. It's like putting all the ingredients in a pot and you get a really mucky, horrible meal that tastes horrible. You've got to be really selective with your ingredients. And it's such a powerful statement now to me, select and reject, because Make Your Mark teaches you how to select the most important parts, and that's what the course is all about.
It
really
is.
It's about getting it all out and then getting a sieve and sieving sieving till you're left with the most important bits left in the sieve that you bring forward into your art. So
for now, that's a really important thing, you know. We're saying
for now. It's not forever.
It's not forever. So I use this process, this cycle. Once we've sieved and we've come to a conclusion that we think, this is where I'd like to explore a little bit for a while, then what you do is you give yourself a deadline, you give yourself an exhibition, or you show it to someone, or you park it, and then you think, I've done that now, I've completed that bit. And then you select, you return, you select and reject, and then you go over the bits and you dig deeper until, this is a whole lifetime's journey. It's many lifetimes.
Being an artist is a lifetime. It's not.
Grayson Perry quote, favourite Grayson Perry quote. I was listening to him on a podcast the other week, and he said that, well, when I'm in the shower, that's when I do all of my thinking, and I know that I can't. This is in my mind. This is how he sounds like. I know that I'm in the shower with Grayson Perry, going, yes, I'm doing that too.
Hold on a minute. You're in the shower. You're in the shower.
No, I'm not like that. I'm in his mind. I'm in his mind, in imagination world that is never endless possibilities. But no, that's the difference. No.
Grayson Perry.
Grayson Perry, I love you, Grayson Perry. Can you come over to the pottery and teach art here, please? That's just for you. Not in the shower.
Grayson Perry. Some people might not know who Grayson Perry is.
Perry is an amazing potter artist, and he's a people's artist. So he's really great bridge between the fine art world, which is very private and exclusive, to the people that want to buy it and they want to go and buy something for £45. So he's really good at that. I'm sorry, that's my phone going off.
It's okay.
Let's just ignore it. So Grayson Perry said, you don't have to, or he said, I know that not all of these ideas that I have in my mind are going to get realised. They have to be parked somewhere. They have to they have to really be selected, and only the best ones get through for now. and then he can go back and think, I'm going to explore that one as well in some point in the future. So yeah. So even he does it, and if he does the selection and rejection process, it's got to be good.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things that Sharon that I've learned from the Make Your Mark process, but also just now I use it in my whole life. Select and reject everything. My friends, my
Do you ever get guilty though about that thought, reject?
Because like what I know, it's how you perceive it. I don't see it as a bad word. I don't. I see it as a very cleansing, nice word, because like you say, it's not final. It's not rejection in terms of I reject you and I never want to see you again. It's I need to park you this for now. And it will return at some point. It's about owning where we're at as artists, as people in our lives, you know. And we've only got so much space and so much room. And we've got to select what's important to us right in that moment. So I use it for everything now.
That's why we get overwhelmed, isn't it?
Yeah,
I do feel sometimes in my life I do feel guilty about or saying, no, this is a boundary and this is where I'm going to go towards, and then it's going to stop and I'm going to have to move forward this direction.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we do need somebody else to give us the permission to say it's okay to park that for now.
Yeah.
And it's a, you know, the Make Your Mark is a safe place for people to do that.
Yeah.
I know that when I was teaching in a more formal way in an establishment, it was very much about being safe and about exploring things and being allowed to play without fear, without boundaries, without someone looking over your shoulder and going, you must do that. And also giving yourself permission, or giving people permission, or giving it to yourself, or if you can't do it to yourself, you need someone else to give it to you that you trust. And then it's allowing that time for you to understand that it's okay to let go of stuff. It's okay. It's good. It helps. It, like you said, it makes room for you to grow and to bring and welcome in new ideas and some growth and some love.
But also those things come back if they're important. When we reject, if they're important to us, they'll come back. We will revisit them in terms of art as well. And I find that I park some things, I reject them for now, and then 6 months on, I realise they didn't matter to me. And if they did matter, then I bring them in and I'm like, yeah, you are so important. This colour, or it could be something seems insignificant, or a thought, or you know, this is what this process is.
This is what I do. So when I come to the end of a conclusion, let me show you two of them. Actually, this one. So when I come to the end of a body of work or a collection of new work that I'm very excited to share, at that moment, once I've finished with it, I am really excited to share it. And I'm like, look what I've just made. It's like overwhelming. I need to show it to everybody. And then a little bit of me goes, hold on a minute. Don't be in a hurry to share it just yet. Which is why I use Instagram quite a lot for blogging, because then I can just go, wow, look what I've just done. And that kind of makes me feel better. I have to leave the work in the workshop for a while. And if it still says, yes, that's good, that's exactly what I was trying to say, or it's got some elements that I didn't see before, then it can go out. So it's the timing as well. It's huge. It matters so much when we notice who we are as artists, as individuals, as people, and our needs to share or to, hide away. It's understanding who we are as people as well as and how we approach it.
So I just want to say, because I noticed some comments earlier saying, when are you sending the details about your mark? And I'm sorry, it's not, I know there's lots of people asking. It's because Make Your Mark was written 5 years ago, but Sharon got really busy being a really successful artist, so didn't have time to run it the last 2 years. And I managed to get her in the diary this year, and I was like, please, can we revisit this? And got in your diary because she's really busy.
I want to share it as well.
So it starts next week, next Friday, and you can join from Sunday, and all the details will be released on Sunday. In fact, we were just saying we'll do a live session on Sunday because it's the last day of Kickstart, and we want to just go through Kickstart and how that ends and what you end up with and how you can take that forwards in the future. Even if you're not planning on joining Make Your Mark, we'll still give you tips on what you do with that. But if you do want to take Make Your Mark and work with Sharon, and she will give you behind the scenes of how she works. We've got a bonus this time called Sharon's Diary, where she's doing snippets of Make Your Mark herself to show you how it is working for her. And
it's really important, I think, from if I was to take Make Your Mark, I would want to know how it was going to help me. And this is we're all in it together. I'm on my own journey, you're on your own journey. It doesn't matter which point of the journey that you're on, as long as you're on it. That's the most important thing. If you're on this art journey, we are in it together. We started somewhere, and we are going to be doing this quite a lot in our lives, hopefully. So I really want to share that. If I was on the Make Your Mark course, I would want to know who is the tutor. So hello, I'm Sharon. What their credentials are. So can I trust them? Do I know what I'm doing? And the one thing that I want to share is that process that I use, which is real. It does work. It works for me. I call it the design cycle, and it's you have a beginning, you have a middle bit where you go through lots of things, and then you have a conclusion, and then I have an exhibition. And I really wanted to capture that, so that then you get to know what it's like, or the people that I'm sharing my knowledge and skills with.
And it's skills for life. Like I use everything I've learned in Make Your Mark, I use time and time again. And so it stays with you. And so many people have said that. Deb's on here, she took Make Your Mark and said the same. It really gets you thinking. So does anybody want to fire some questions at us now? Let's put the phone back in the holder, because my arm is about to drop off.
It's a bit sellotapey.
Hold on, because it might start trying to ring the emergency services again, like it did earlier. We're a bit wonky here.
I've got some gadgets, but they're not as whizzy as Michelle's. Obviously, she's the gadget queen.
Hold on, that's covering up the microphone now.
Is that
the mic is underneath there?
Can you hear us?
We're a bit wobbly, but hey, you can kind of sit. So, questions. Lindsay's saying, "Hello, Sharon. Do you feel exhausted after finishing a piece and have a break?"
I think I feel exhausted most of the time, just generally exhausted. But I think that's because of my life is very busy. I have 2 children at home and a dog. I've just moved house, and I've got about 7 exhibitions this year and a major one next year, which has been postponed this year. It's supposed to be happening this year, which is why I've got a bit of time to make the Mark course.
I think as well, though, having known you for years, I see you go through this cycle, this design cycle, where you start a project, you gather like Kickstart, and then Sharon will go and she'll disappear into making mode, and I don't see her, and she's like, you can have me for 10 minutes. And then, but then I do notice, though, when you have your collection and you've exhibited it, you do take that step back.
I think it's really important,
and you take that time, don't you? And that might, maybe that's your break, where you seem to just take a few weeks to go, breathe.
Yeah, if I can,
and then you return back to it again.
I have a confession. I do work quite a lot because I'm so passionate about it, and it is really such a massive deal for me in my life. Art is like, it's my life, it's everything. But I do make sure that Friday nights and Saturdays and Sundays are not work related. So on a Saturday night now, I'm learning to play bass guitar. Not guitar. I kind of like playing. I like playing drums. I've got musical in my family. So now I do something else. I do something completely else, and it's really difficult to switch off that art brain, because it's so exciting and it's so important. But yes, regular breaks. And then once I have a collection of work together and the exhibition is completed, generally the public see it after I've been working on it for months and months and months. So actually, in between the public seeing it and I've been the time between is about a month and a half, where actually I have a bit of time out before the public see the work. So that's really good time to have a breather and a recoup.
Chantel's asking, have other artists in the hub do Make Your Mark? Yes. So Make Your Mark was born 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago. It was our first baby. When we launched United Art Space, it started off as being a course to help artists who are stuck, because we set up a community called the Virtual Art Studio, and I could see that Sharon could help them. So I was like, can we please write a course together? And that's when Make Your Mark was born. So yeah, that was 5 years ago. So yeah, lots of hub members have taken Make Your Mark 5 years ago, and they're hub members. So lots of people have been around in our community for 5 years now. Joan says, are you thinking about art even as you sleep?
No, I'm sleeping. I'm dreaming. I'm in a Happyville somewhere.
Paulina says, how long does Make Your Mark course take? PS, love your studio.
Oh, thank you.
So the live version is 7 weeks, but you have 12 months to do it, and it kind of it's kind of like a thing that you'll just do for life once you learn it, if that makes sense. It's a bit like the 7 keys that I teach, that it's a framework, and when you learn it, then you just keep applying it to your art over and over, don't you?
So at the end of the course, it's I guess for those of you who've got dependents, or you're really, really busy and you're really struggling for time, during those 7 weeks when it starts, I'll be in there, and I'll be in giving, answering questions, and I'll be present in the course with you for those 7 weeks. And then after those 7 weeks, I'm not. So if you did want to go along with it during the 7 weeks, but maybe the shorter version, you know, like the Kickstart challenge, it's totally up to you how you take it. You will have PDFs. You'll have PDFs that you can download and just keep or store or print out, and you'll have the videos as well that you can download onto your computer if you want them as well. So you can. It's really up to you how you choose it. I think the majority of people, if they take the course, if they do it with within the time that we suggest, they get much more out of it.
Tricia says, doing one course, Michelle, with you, do you think you're cutting yourself too fine doing another one with Sharon? Gosh, no, because Make Your Mark was written 5 years ago, and I don't teach Make Your Mark.
No, it's
Sharon
me.
teaches Make Your Mark.
I'm the person who's doing the work.
I don't.
I'll just go, Michelle, I don't know about this tech thing. What do you mean by this? Help. And she'll go, well, done.
So yes, it's not me doing the teaching, it's Sharon.
Yeah. It's me. I don't teach. Usually I don't. I was
no,
used
this
to,
is rare. By the way,
I used to teach so much, but now I'm like, no, those boundaries. Now I definitely, well, look, it's time for me. I want my own work.
And this is why it only runs once a year, because Sharon can't commit to doing it more than once a year, because she does take time out of her own art to do this. So
I've got to say though, it's not you that twisted my arm about it. It's something that I really believe, really passionately about, and I really miss it. I miss working with other people.
But there was a point, and this is what I teach. There is a point though, like saying before, that we have to reject things, because you knew your art was about to take off, and you just said, I can't. I'm spreading myself too thin. And that's okay, and I was totally okay with that, and I think that's what we have to do in life, isn't it, sometimes? Susie says, does size matter when selling art? Does it go through cycles and trends? Oh, does it go on medium? Does it not matter at all? I think
really good question, actually.
It is, and I just think it really just depends on you as an artist and where you're putting it. It's all about context with work. Like if you put your artwork into a museum and there's lots of people there that are interested in that type of work that you're doing, it will have a voice. But if you choose to put your work somewhere where people don't get it, or they're not your people, and this is what I teach in the hub, then it has no context. It won't have a voice, and it really does depend on, you know, what comes out of this as you and an artist, and Make Your Mark, and finding the right place for that artwork. So I think there's room for every type of art, but where you put it and what you do with it is the important part. So making sure it has that voice.
The same question, that similar question was on the Lowy craft question this morning in the collect. So those of you who just they one of the I've forgotten her name. She's one of the finalists. She actually said, I get this question quite a lot. And maybe we see the trend as a negative word, but actually it's not a negative. It's if we see it in a different light. So if we see it as a positive, the trend is that actually that's what people want.
Yeah.
So if you are working with trends in mind, we are making connections right now in our modern world that we are living in.
Yeah.
And I think it's really relevant. It's a really good point, actually.
Actually, going back to Tricia as well about wondering if I was cutting myself too fine, what I would say to that as well is the more I do make your mark, the more it enhances the 7 keys that I wrote, because they go hand in hand. You know, developing your voice as an artist and knowing what you want to communicate through your art, it goes hand in hand with where you put it, your why. So the more I do make your mark and get involved in the process, the more I can teach, people that are inside my community as well. And so it is really so rich, this whole process. So I think it's really interesting, isn't it, about trends as well. I've worked in a trend driven design company, and I just think there is a place for following trends if that's what you're really excited about. If you're excited about going to all the trade shows, following all the magazines, seeing what is emerging, what new patterns, where influences are coming from, if that is what excites you, then I think there's a place for making trend-driven art. But if you're doing it to keep up with trends, and it will fizzle out, because a trend is a trend and it will fizzle out within a season or 2 seasons. So it's all about what your voice and what you're excited about. And I know lots of people, and I worked in trends for a long time, and it was exciting to see what new trends were coming through and be ahead of the game. And
maybe that's it. It's not a rat race, is it? So I think, or do you think, this is a good question actually, do you think that I'm guessing, if I was an artist that was very, very keen on making work that was trending all the time, I guess that I would feel in a state of panic and a state of hurrying and rushing all the time and trying to keep up. And that's not a great mindset for anyone to be in. So maybe that's quite a negative viewpoint in the keeping up with trends. Maybe that's, it can be.
Michelle says, thanks for all the sharing. This has been fab. Michelle, I saw you asking questions earlier about whether there's a replay. Yes, there's a replay to this. You can literally watch it as soon as this is finished by just going to our Facebook page and replaying it. So somebody asked earlier, and I've just remembered, could they see your birds, your low-hanging fruit? And I'm looking at one over there, and they wanted to just see one. Could you grab that? I can't remember who it was that asked, but I've just remembered earlier when you were talking, someone said, can I see? So that's one of Sharon's birds, and I used this example before when you sold these when we went into lockdown last year. Though a year ago, you came up with the idea, and they just really quick. You just make those really quickly, and
really little porcelain birds, because I wanted to give something back and share something, or make a connection with art and people. Last year, so I made about 1,000 of them and sent them all over the world, and it was really lovely. It's a really nice thing to do. And then it wasn't a money-making profit thing. It was more of a making connections with people. And then I think from off of that, actually, people did see me and look at my work in a different light, and maybe got to know me a little bit more and about what my work is about. And it's about making connections with people. So I think that was a nice little thing to do. Made me feel good. People feel good. Shared a bit of hope and love and joy.
Katie's asking, are you working on 2 exhibitions at the same time or crossing over?
I like to work from a jobs board, so I don't get confused, because I get confused very easily. And some of them cross over because they're longer, and some of them are at the same time. If I have 2 major solo shows at the same time, it doesn't work. So I like to work on a big exhibition once a year, or maybe once every 2 years, and then lots of little ones that I can manage quite happily. So they kind of keep my hand in, and keep the money coming in, actually, because I pay a mortgage.
Yeah, Nicole said she's thinking of joining again. Nicole, my gosh, how long was
That
it?
would be
You did make your mark.
amazing.
I remember. Was it
you?
4 years ago you took Make Your Mark, or were you one of the first? I'm trying to think now, because I'm sure you did it twice as well with us. That was such a long time ago, wasn't it? Yeah, it's good to be back, isn't it? Because we sat the other night when we were rewriting it, so we went over it together.
We
and
did. It was so good.
Because we wrote it 5 years ago, and now we've changed as people, and we've learned so much more in that 5 years as artists and people. And so we sat and went through it, but it was like really lovely, wasn't it? Like going back to 5 years ago. Yeah.
The one thing that really struck me was 5 years ago it was a good course, and then sitting back and really taking it apart and really looking through it with a fine-tooth comb, it's a really great course still. So that's the test of time.
It is.
It still works. It still works for me.
Nick
it still works for everybody else.
Nick says, I've joined the waiting list for Make Your Mark. Looking forward to it. Oh my gosh, Nick, it would be great.
Voyage of discovery.
Yeah, just what we need.
It's your own voyage.
Charlie says, definitely considering Make Your Mark. I'm generally broke, but I might get family to chip in for early birthday present.
Oh, let's hope.
Have you done a picture in crackle paste?
Crackle paste.
I've used crackle paste before. A long time ago.
Crackle paste, I guess, is a paste that cracks.
Yeah, it's like a nice little medium that I've used it with acrylic.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I've done it before as well with PVA glue and put like pigments in, and it all crackles.
There's so many lovely things that you can do with art. And then when companies come in and then call it something. It's great. I quite like using things that you can just find around that give you the same kind of feel.
I love this question. It could go on for a whole hour though.
We are in an hour.
Yeah. We talk a lot about what we talk about a lot. What do we mean by artistic voice? And this is such a good question. It's too long to answer because it's got so many facets. But to me, very simply, an artist's voice is your truth. It's like you being authentically you, bringing your experiences, bringing how you feel, all your life lessons, what you're excited about as a person, what sparks your curiosity, and playing with that. And to me, art is a language. And so everyone's voice is unique. Everybody's voice is unique. So people start by imitating other artists and they're copying like for like. And when you start to find your own voice, you start to do things in your own way. You take influences from lots of different places. And there is something so pure and individual in every single one of us. And I see it in all the artists I work with, that they'll get to a point you start to see something unique in them. It's the way they hold their pencil, it's the way they draw with the light, the mark making. Sometimes it's so subtle, but it makes people individual. And that's what, to me, that's what your artistic voice is. It's that individuality that's in all of us that you bring out.
That's really good. In a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell. Yeah, without going on for an hour, because I could talk about that for an hour.
It is a big question.
Sandra says, thanks for the insight into your studio, Sharon. It's really interesting.
Thank you for looking.
Lorna's here. Would love to take part, but COVID has written off the opportunity, but thank you. You're welcome. It's okay. Yeah, there's no pressure to join at all. It's just, if this is your time, then it is your time. And if it isn't, that's okay.
Absolutely. We talk about time. Just to recap, that time is so individual. It's not a beginning and then a middle and then an end. It's a beginning and then a middle and then an end, which then leads into the beginning again and again and again. And this is our time in it's everywhere. It's in our lives. It's in our earth. It's the morning, noon, night. It's in everything. So yeah.
Simone has one of your birds. Yes. Michelle says, perception of trend of one artist could be someone else's sweet spot. Yeah, you're right. Be you. That's good advice, Michelle.
And you can't please everybody either, can you? That's the who to Michelle's.
Yeah. Yes. So I will come back. I've just seen someone else asking. So what the cost is, and do you get a confirmation email? Yes. So what happens is there's a 7-part live section, and it's released every week over 7 weeks, the course. And that part is live, and there's a community, and you don't need to be on Facebook to take part in the community. Everything is on its own website, and you have access to that for 12 months. You can download all the PDFs so you can keep those for life. And it takes you step by step through the process that Sharon goes through. And so you get that, the 7-week course, and access for 12 months. And then Sharon's doing a bonus, which is Sharon's diary, taking you behind the scenes of how she uses it as well. And that is £290. And yes, you get access for 12 months. But you've got it for life, really, because you can download it. And then when you sign up, you will get the intro material sent to you. But if you've been taking part in Kickstart, Kickstart is kind of like the prep. So you've already started to kind of do the intro work, which is great because you've got a head start. If you haven't kept up with Kickstart, don't worry, because we're going to do a boot camp next week. But also Make Your Mark assumes that you haven't taken Kickstart. So it goes right from the beginning through the process. So you don't have to have taken Kickstart to enjoy Make Your Mark. And yeah, well, like you see, there's people who've taken it before who are going to take it again, because it is so, and I'm biased because I had a hand in it, but I learned a lot from Sharon through this process, and it is great.
It's a process that every artist uses.
Yeah. Chantal, I have no idea what that converts to in US dollars. If you go to xe.com,
Brexit.
Yeah, xe.com will convert the rate for you, because it does depend on the day as well. But yeah, if you want to convert to a different currency.
What time is boot camp next week?
I don't know. We have
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock next Wednesday. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, 3 o'clock next Wednesday.
It is now.
We've
said it.
Yeah. We're gonna get stretching, and we're gonna get mentally fit for our art journey.
And the boot camp, what does boot camp involve? So it's basically an hour where we are going to go through each challenge. So right, day 1 was this: get your sketchbook out now. We're going to do this together, and I'm going to put a timer on. And then, okay, after 10 minutes, what was day 2? And we're going to work through, and we're going to do it.
We'll do it together. We'll do it with you.
We are literally going to do it here, just picking things up and just
in a very safe place. So there's no right or wrong. It's just a bit of a start. It's about the starting point, about the beginning of our journey, and it's about just like explosive little like, oh, let's do this in a short space of time. So it's a real no-brainer.
Yes,
and it's good fun. It's fun.
It is, yeah.
And we get so serious about everything all the time. There's a lot of serious things going on right now. It's about
time. And even if you don't want to Make Your Mark, join us, because we truly do want to just get you through Kickstart. And you know, if you can
really
do that and then take your art forward. So yes, okay. If there's any comments or questions that I've missed, we will come back to them. And thank you for joining us. I've enjoyed it. It's been great to have a little nosy around Sharon's Pottery.
I love this when we do and we do the waving.
I just want to show these ones, because I've just been looking at these. I just want to show these. There's just a random foot there, before we go.
This one has got a new home already. As on yesterday.
Oh, you sold it.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Gotta be careful around you then.
Some collectors.
I hate coming here because I'm a bit clumsy, and I knock something, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's really expensive.
They're not. They're worth it, I think.
Okay.
Oh, let's go on. Let's
everyone's saying bye. Yeah. See
bye.
you later.